Welcome, and today I have some new components, so let's see what I've got and how they perform. Hello and welcome to Nelly's Nerd Cave. As always, I'm Neil, and on this channel I share my love of tech and gaming with tips, tutorials and reviews. Today I'm unboxing some new tech that I have recently bought, and while some of this may be considered a little bit dated, I have chosen these parts to add to my list of growing components so I can do more bench testing with other things rather than really old outdated stuff. First up, let's talk about the motherboard. This is the MSI PRO B760M WiFi. This is the Wi-Fi edition and supports DDR4. This supports the processors from the 12th generation Intel all the way up to the 14th gen. This board has a B760 chipset and it boasts Gen 4 PCIe slots and M.2. With its micro ATX form factor, this is going to be good for a small case where space is really at a premium. It comes with two 3.2 Gen 1 at 50 gigabits and two 3.2 Gen 2 at 100 gigabits, with the capability to add a further USB 3.2 Gen 1 to the front panel too. I'm not sure, but I think there's two slots. I'll have a look later. It has Wi-Fi 6, it has Bluetooth 5.3, so connecting it up to the internet shouldn't really be much of an issue. Now with this, I've also purchased a Intel 12900K. This has 8 performance cores and 8 efficiency cores, and this little thing has plenty of bang for its buck. And I can't wait to see what this can do, as I have an 11900K in my editing PC, and I've not used an Intel CPU with performance cores and efficiency cores, so it'll be nice for me to be able to see this kind of thing in action. This particular CPU has a TDP of 125 watts when it's on its base processing power, but then goes up to a staggering 240 watts when it's turboing up to its full speeds. Talking about its speeds, the P-core's base speed is 3.2 GHz and the E-cores are 2.4, with a max clock speed of 5.1 GHz on the P-cores and 3.9 for the E-cores, so absolutely monstrous amounts of power. The great thing with this CPU is that it has integrated graphics, which can save you a little bit on the graphics card if they seem a little bit pricey, especially seeing as the motherboard in this case has 2 HDMI and 2 display ports built right into the motherboard itself. So let's have a quick look at what's in the box, shall we? So getting this out, this is the Pro series and it's smaller than I actually thought it was. Let me plunk that there. So getting this out of the box, what we can see is we have a massive set of heat sinks surrounding the VRMs for the processor. It has 4 DDR4 memory slots here. And I know DDR4, but again, DDR4 is pretty much the cheapest stuff that we've got at the moment, especially with DDR5 being kind of as rare as hen's teeth. I purchased this because I have tons of DDR4 lying about. We do have 2 PCIe X16 slots, and both of these actually run at Generation 4 speeds and at X16. This middle one is an X1 slot. Now the X1 slot only runs at Gen 3 speeds. There are 2 M.2 slots, so one at the top under this heatsink here and one here at the bottom, and both of these run at Generation 4x4. There's plenty of ARGB headers. There's USB at the bottom, there's SATA here, USB 3 and USB-C there. So I'm going to start and build something with this and just pop it on my test bench, and we're going to run some benchmarks just to see how they are. Okay, so with the motherboard and the processor in place, what I'm going to be using as its RAM is I have 2 sticks here of DDR4. This is Trident Z's from G-Skill. These are running at 3000 mega transfers, and I have a total of 32 gigs, so that's 2 16 gigabyte sticks, and we will stick them in slots 2 and 4. I normally do them the opposite way around, 4 and 2, because that's the way I can see things here. Stick number 1. And stick number 2. So that's the G-Skill RAM in. For my SSD, I'm going to be using a Kioxia Xeria drive. This is just 1 terabyte, and I'm going to need my wonderful iFixit toolkit screwdriver. Just unscrew these 2 screws here. Oh, that's good. These screws are captive, so no losing of screws on this. I always like it. Oh, that one's not captive, but that's fine. Oh, good. And it's also got the quick connect for the SSD. So you pop the SSD in properly and don't drop it on the motherboard because you're an idiot. And you pop the drive in, and then you've got like this little doobery thing here. And what you do is you push it over and it keeps the drive down, therefore allowing you to add in what you need. And I'm gonna put this in just like so. That is the drive. Fantastic. So next up, what I'm going to be doing is I've opted for an air cooler. So here what I have is the ID Cooling Frozen A620 Pro. This does allow a maximum TDP for CPUs of up to 260 watts, so plenty for this hot little CPU that we're sticking on here. This is relatively simple to install. It has 6 heat pipes on it, and it has a really nice copper base. As you can see, I haven't even taken this out of the box before. This is completely brand new. So 2 fans, there's the heat sink, and it's silver with black tops on, which looks really good. And you can see that it's got the 6 heat pipes, and it should have a copper base, but it doesn't. It's nickel plated copper. So with this, you know me, I tend to forget little bits and pieces, like removing this sticker. So while I do remember, let's get rid, because you know what I'm like, I always forget. I am not great at this when it comes to sticking on these things. I've come across many of these and many issues, as you've all seen. The mounting system is relatively simple, so it needs to go this way. Cool. So mounting system is a bit like some of the Thermalright coolers. So little teeny tiny bolts for the top. Come on, focus. Yep, so little teeny tiny bolts for the top. and these screw on here into each one. I know you can't really see that very well on camera because of the angles and the zoom and everything else. Something else I really need to sort out is the look of some of these angles and the way that the camera's positioned. But I'm learning every time I do a video. Right, so that's on there. We then get some wonderful thermal goop. This is MX4 from Arctic. I always use this. I find it really useful, really good. Put a blob down the centre. I say a blob, it's ginormous. And let's put it the right way around, because there's actually lettering on that you might not be able to see. Is that going to focus enough? Come on, do it, do it, do it, do it. Focus. Nope, it's not focusing, but trust me, there's lettering on, so it needs to go right way up. And we shall get this started with the hands and then use the screwdriver. I wondered why it was taking a while, because it wasn't screwing down properly. There we go. Excellent. So really easy and very, very simple to set up is this cooler. We also end up with these, some people love them, some people hate them, little metal horrible brackety things for the fans. These fans are said to do 58 cubic feet a minute, but we'll see. And I think I'm going to put one here. I put one there and one there, or do I do it the other way around? Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, so position the things inside the holes so you know where they are. Like so, and then clip it on. That looks pretty cool. And then you do the exact same with the other side. That way around. Clippy dooberies. And then on the back. And then like so. I think in this box comes a fan splitter. Yes, it does. As well as the AMD mounts. Extra brackets for a third fan if you wish to put a third fan on. So, fan splitter, not ideal, but to get both fans running at the same speed, comes in very handy. 1 and 2. So it's trying to plug the plug into a plug. And where on earth is CPU? Pump, aha, CPU fan. Oh, that's hidden in a very strange place. It is actually hidden underneath the actual fan heatsink itself. Very tight to get into. I'm just going to leave the cables dangling there a little bit. What I'm going to do also is front panel. So front panel I've made easy for this board because I just plug one thing in, it's done. What else do I have? This test bench actually uses a thermal take tough power. This is the GFA3 1200 watt. It's completely modular, PCIe 3, and it's 80 plus gold certified, so it's really good. And just need to plug that in and we can do a power on and see if this baby functions. No, I've not put a graphics card in because we have 4 graphics ports on the back and the instructions say that each one can do up to 8K. Don't believe everything you read, but it's worth having a look sometimes to see if things can do that. I'll make sure all my power's plugged in. There we go, sign of a true IT nerd, can do it without actually looking. Fantastic. So, not populating anything else. Let me throw that down there. Let me get power. So, power in the back. And I'm going to use a display port, because there are 2 of those on the back of here. Display port and network. Do I need anything else? Keyboard and mouse. One moment.
A few moments later.
Here is my trusty Trust wireless keyboard and mouse that I always keep hanging around for things like this. This motherboard's a little bit weird as well because it has a PS2 port, which I can see. It has everything that you really need. Not much in the way of USB. In total there's 6 USBs on the board itself, but I'm only going to be using it for testing, so let's see. So we're powered on. Is it going to actually work? Who knows? Let's see. Turn the monitor on, tends to work. Hey! Is that HDMI or is that display port? And it's switched off. And it's switched on again. Could be that it's a new processor in a new board. And there we go. And I didn't even realise I actually had Windows installed on this NVMe, so that's a bonus. No idea why the screen is doing that weird tearing. I don't know if you can see this, but it's like doing some weird stuff. Okay, so after installing my new password that it's asked for, after putting in my new password, MSI Board automatically presents you with some installs. With this, make sure that you are not installing the rubbish that comes with it, such as Norton 360. Nobody needs that, but all the other drivers install. This way, then what you get is you get a wonderful experience. So again, I'll be back in a moment once all this is fully installed and we will have a look at some benchmarks. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what this actually does with no graphics card at stock, with no changes done to it whatsoever. I've got an extra capture card plugged in, so that might take a few resources, but I'm interested to see what 3DMark is. Then I'm probably going to chuck a graphics card in here and see what the difference is. So I'm going to run Steel Nomad and we'll see how that goes, and you're going to see that on screen in a moment. So we can see here running Steel Nomad straight from the start that we're running between 3 and 5 frames per second. It's not bad, but I don't think you could probably play a game with this. So yeah, very, very low score. 3.99 frames per second. Not very good. But let's see a different benchmark and let's try the general normal Time Spy. Not the extreme one. Let's just try normal Time Spy. Let's see if that shows any improvement. It probably won't, but we'll see. So 3DMark Time Spy didn't even finish. It went gaga halfway through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a 4060 Ti, which is just this one just here. I'm going to stick that in the gaming rig, or in this rig, and see if that makes a difference. Which, anything more than fail and 4 frames per second is going to be good. So bear with me 1 second. And as we can see with Steel Nomad using the RTX 4060 Ti, we're getting between 28 and 31 frames per second. A significant improvement on the 4 frames per second just on the internal graphics itself. Excellent quality, really good, and we'll see shortly if we can get the normal test bench working. We can see here on 3DMark Time Spy that we do have a frame rate between 75 and 81 frames per second, which is a phenomenal amount compared to what it did last time, which was fail. So we can see straight away that there's an advantage to this particular platform having a graphics card, especially if you want to do gaming. I think if you just want to do light office work, having the inbuilt graphics is perfectly fine, but to play gaming and to do something more substantial like 3D rendering, etc., you do need a graphics card. Okay, so at the end of that run, we've got a really decent score of 13,245. Now, if you want to build something like this, now's pretty much not the time. Prices are going through the roof. Things are becoming very expensive. For the platform, so the motherboard and the CPU alone, I paid about £550 for this. So it's quite expensive to start with. Once you add on the RTX 4060 Ti, which was another 350, I think, when I first purchased it, you're kind of knocking up £900. Then you've got the cooler. You could go cheap, but this is a hot processor. You really, really need it. Again, the price of NVMEs have gone up as well. When I bought this particular NVMe, this particular one, I think the terabyte was around about £85. The same one, you're kind of now looking at 120, 130. The RAM, again, is DDR4. I would suggest actually buying DDR4 second hand if you can, because there's tons of it out there. And my local computer exchange has loads of it in store. And it's relatively cheap. You're looking at around about £6 per 8 gig stick, around about £12 for 16 gig sticks. So you get 32 gig for probably 20 or 30 pounds from a second-hand shop. They do test them, make sure they work. So that's it really. I'm done. I hope you've kind of learnt something, whether that's that the 12900K isn't the powerhouse that it's made out to be, because you do need a graphics to play games, or whether it's the fact that it's very expensive. Either way, thank you for tuning in to Nelly's Nerd Cave. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more tech and gaming content. And until next time, happy gaming and stay nerdy.